Social Security is failing. By 2034, the government has declared the right to deduct Social Security payments by up to 20%. Now, it's important to understand why that is. What's up, everyone? This is Tyler Nowotny back here again. And what I wanted to discuss today is something about Social Security that a lot of people really don't know. And that is obviously Social Security is in trouble. So if you're already receiving Social Security, you look on your most recent statement and there's a tidbit in there and they frame it as a positive, but they say, we can guarantee that we will be able to provide you 80% of your Social Security benefits by 2034. If you flip that around, what are they actually saying is we may cut your Social Security benefits by 20% in 2034. So we want to take a look and actually understand why that is, what the solutions are, and what is actually going on. Because a lot of people hear about this, but they don't actually understand why. You hear things about, oh, they raided the Social Security fund, which is potentially true and untrue. It's mostly untrue. And then, okay, if that's not true, why is Social Security having trouble? So there's really a few things. So one, it has to do with the ratio of workers to recipients. This is why, in a way, the boomers got the short end of the stick of this, because they were such a large generation that when they were paying in, there were not many people pulling out. You can see here, it's from CNBC, it's Larry Fink. It's talking about what Larry Fink has said. It's that Social Security doesn't do a good job of building wealth. Now, what he means by that is this. Like, if you've been contributing to a 401k plan, or maybe you're contributing to a pension, in your 401k, they have mutual funds, and you contribute, and then over 30 years, you're watching those mutual funds potentially grow over time. You have a pension. Well, when you put your money in a pension fund, the company just doesn't keep that money in cash. What they do is they have an actual investment fund that acts as a pension fund that goes and invests on your behalf. For instance, the California Teachers Retirement Fund is one of the largest pension funds in the world, and they go and invest in many of these different companies and get those outsized returns. The Social Security Fund does not operate like that. The reason is not because they don't want to, it's because they can't. The Social Security Fund has a rule that it can only invest in treasury bonds, which I understand some of the thinking here is because their thinking is, all right, we don't want anything that can really lose a whole bunch of money, and because we want this to be safe. But the problem is, over a time horizon of 30 to 40 years, you're safely losing in a way, because you're not really growing much. In some years, you're returning less than inflation. And then you create the situation we have now where Social Security is running out of money. They're projecting cuts, which probably could have been avoidable. So let's go a little bit through this article. Yeah, and as you see here, if you can see this line here, the issue is Social Security provides stability, but it doesn't allow most Americans to build wealth in a way that grows with their country. Very true. If you think about, let's say you're someone who is turning let's say 67 this year, right? So you're born in 1959. Let's say you started entering the workforce in 1980. For the last 46 years, what has the stock market done in that period? How much has that grown? Hundreds or thousands of percent it has grown. And so what Larry Fink is referencing is that in an ideal world, your Social Security benefits and the money you put into that would be growing and growing, and you could actually get more out than you even put in. Yeah, as he says here, money not immediately used to pay benefits is deposited into Social Security's trust funds, which are invested exclusively in U.S. Treasury bonds. 2025, each of those funds, the retirement and disability trust funds, earned 2.6% in a year where the market was up close to 20. The inflation adjustment for Social Security that is for 2026, but is based on 2025, was 2.8%. That's what the CPI went up throughout the year of 2025, was 2.8%. Using common math, if Social Security gained 2.6 and inflation was 2.8, did the Social Security Fund even make money? No, in real terms, it actually lost 0.2% in value. Whereas, yeah, as mentioned here, S&P 500 was up about 16%. A 60-40 portfolio of stocks and bonds was up nearly 15% for 2020. And so the interesting thing here is nobody even says that Social Security has to wholly be invested in the market. But even if you invested half in the market or 25% in the market and the rest in bonds, over time, you still would have had a significantly larger period of growth, and you would not really have much chance of losing much, because if you only have 25% at risk, then even in a bad year, you're not really taking much of a hit. But over that 40 to 50 year period that we talked about before, you would have still seen massive gains. I do agree with Larry Fink here. And people say, oh, that's privatizing the Social Security. No, it is not. The government is still paying it out. The taxpayers are still paying it in. It is privatizing the management of the Social Security Trust Fund, and how that's a bad thing if they can get outsized returns. Yeah, they're going to charge their fees, but what I always say on this topic about fees, would you rather pay no fees and get 2.6%, or would you rather pay 1% and get a 10% return? You know, there's going to be some people out there, some interesting folks, who are going to say they'd rather pay no fees and get a 2.6% return. But I don't think those are the types of people you want making decisions on for the greater good, because at the end of the day, you need to look at your net return. You don't pay fees, you get 2.6, your net return is 2.6. You pay a 1% fee, you get 10%. You make 10%, all right. After the fee, you netted 9%. Would you rather have 9% or 2.6%? It's a pretty easy choice in my book. And diversification is very important. It's important to have some level of protection, some level of growth, and having an understanding of what you're susceptible to. Having a long-term fund, a long-term investment fund that is exclusively investing in treasuries, that's not a good idea. It's not a smart idea. And so I'd like to see what your thoughts are. Make sure to leave your comments in the description. And if you like the video, make sure to like and subscribe. Have a great day, all.